Hey, hello, and welcome back. Welcome. And it's been a little while since we had a Diablo-like video because I had some things IRL in my life I had to deal with, some personal things, and that took my time. And but we're back, and we are going to work on the Demon Knight here. And I'm not sure if I'm going to keep the Holy Knight. I know I'm going to keep the Demon Knight, but I don't know if two of basically the same looking kind of knights are going to cut it for me. And I got to replace her with the new Thief bottle too. But but either way, we're going to be working on the Demon Knight here. And so far as loadables characters, we can load in the Archer and play her. We've seen that with her arrows. We can load in the Occult Blood Witch and play her. She's got a few good spells. We can load in the Sorceress, and she has no spells yet. We can load in the Thief, and she's got her stealth and a couple of traps. I want to add some throwables and stuff. Everybody needs more, but so far, these four were all loadable and playable. And now we're working on the Demon Knight. And you see his sword get red there. It's supposed to be like fire imbued because he can imbue his sword with fire, cold, or poison. And we're going to be working on one of his magic skills, though, and that's going to be the laser eyes. And yeah, so let's get right into it. We'll pick him, and we need a name for him. So I'm going to call him. Let's see, my X. There you go. Confirm. Okay, now he's loaded in. Now his script, I'm using the original click to move script for him, and we're going to get some errors because certain things aren't correct on that script. He's going to have his own. He's going to have a Demon Knight script, but for testing for this spell, I used the click to move, the original one. And we can say hello to our goblin friends here who have graciously volunteered to stand there and be killed for our amusement. All right. And now he can go up and attack one melee style. So let's say I want to use fire or cold or poison. Those will add damage to his attacks. So let's use fire and go kill one of these guys, melee style, so you can see him working that way. You can see the sword trail turning red when his sword is red, and it would do the same if it's blue, and green if it's poison. It would do the same green kind of sword trail. And we can turn that off. So he can attack melee like the other characters if he needs to. But we want to check out his magic spell. Now, normally you would click the spells button here and get the tab, but I don't have a tab made for him yet. Alright, but we'll work on that. But, I mean, you can bring up the menu, save it, and then go back to the thing and load it. And he's still got his experience from killing that guy. And we've still got the inventory panel here I'm working on. And, but, yeah, his spell, the laser eyes. So, this is what's going to happen. You left click, and boom. You can see you scorch the ground. It'll slowly kind of evaporate and disappear. And do that. And you can see they're coming from his eyes. And it will click it too. Okay. And even if you're not making an RPG or a Diablo-like game, this is a cool effect. You could use it for like a superhero or a super villain, that type of game. Or you could use it for like a laser gun, for like the unique first-person shooter weapons I've been making. You could use it for like a laser gun. But we're making a Diablo game, a Diablo-like game here. Okay, now right now it's not going to draw any mana or anything, and even if he gets attacked, it won't draw any health because, like I said, this script isn't set up for him that way. I'm just using it to test his first magic skill I'm giving him. Now, originally he was going to use like fire, like a forward throwing firewall, and I still might, I don't know. And he had like a fire nova, and I don't know, those seem too cliche, so I decided to give him like demon eyes, laser demon eyes. All right, and if we shoot one of these goblins here, boom, catches fire and dies. Boom, catches fire and dies. Boom, you're dead too. All right, so save that. Load it back up. My X. Okay, so yeah, it saved his position, his experience. Oh, you want to keep following me? Boom, you're dead. All right, and that's what we're dealing with today. You're dead. All right, so how did we do this? Let's get into it. So we're going to load up that level that he's in, the start level. Okay. And he's over here somewhere. There he is. So let's take him out. Okay. So um, he doesn't need to be over here in the hierarchy. That's why he's set to not active there. I just had to set him active. He was just here to add what I needed to add and make him a new prefab to be loaded in by the load player object here that loads in this prefab of the Dark Knight or Demon Knight, which he's now called. All right. But yeah, I used him and he just stayed here like all this other crap I gotta get rid of too. But it's a good thing because now I can show you what I'm doing. All right, so the Demon Eyes. What it is if we go into the Mixamo hips here, go down to the spine, 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 then the neck, and then the head, you'll see right here we have laser eyes. And it is currently set to be inactive. Okay, so we toggle on it being active when we use it, and then inactive when we're not using it. All right, and inside laser eyes, which is just an empty game object. Okay, so you create an empty game object. There are two more empty game objects with things on them, left and right. Okay, and I use that for, let's make it active so we can see. Turn this on. Okay, so here's the laser eye. It's right in the middle of his head because the right and the left are on each side of it. So if we go to the left, you'll see it's over here by the left eye, and if we go to the right, it's over here by the right eye. And these, what they have is a line renderer, okay, with the width set down to almost 0. I mean, it's so close to being 0, it's not funny. And these are the settings for the line renderer. If you want to check them out, pause it and check them out. It's basically the way it came, except I set the width down to basically almost zero, so they can be, thin like laser eyes. And I gave it a material called red laser, which is right here. And if we look at this material, all right, you'll see it's got its emission set, and the color is red, and its intensity is set to 3, so it gets that nice laser glow from the URP bloom. All right. So yeah, this left laser eye and right laser eye each have a line renderer on them, and then they each have the laser eye's script on them. And what the script does is it defines the line renderer, which I dragged into there, and it's got a max length of 100, so it can go out 100, and then it won't go any further than that. You wouldn't need it. And then it's got the layer mask, the hit mask, which is set to be the ground in enemy layers. So the ground has the ground layer on it, and the enemies have the enemy layer on them. All right. And so that's why we're checking for the layer mask in this code for the ground and enemy. So if we can shoot it at the ground, and it makes that scorching effect. And if we hit the enemies with it, it knows that too, and it sets them on fire and kills them. Because this is kind of an OP spell magic, and it's probably going to be later on in his um, leveling up. It's going to be one of the last skills he'll be able to get because it's overpowered. You know, and you'll be able to put points into it and stuff and make it more powerful and strong. With each level up you give it. But even just the first level, it's laser eyes. You know what I mean? My God, it's going to be powerful. So yeah, that's going to be one of his last things. And I'm thinking for one of the first ones he gets, like in the first or second level up, would maybe be like summoning um, a minion from hell, like a little kind of imp-sized kind of demon. And as you put skill points into that, you'd be able to summon like from 1 to 2 or 2 to 3, and each time, maybe they'll get stronger. And yeah, I'm thinking about doing something like that for his startup spells. But hold on a second. But anyway, the left and the right empty objects here. So they have the line renderer, they have the script I just explained, and they each have an audio source. Now, the good thing about having two, one for each eye, is that each audio source is different. Okay, for the left one, I'm using a laser start sound. Okay, which is right here. Listen to that real quick. So that starts up when the laser starts, and then this one has a laser looping sound. So this will play all the time while you're using this skill or spell. So the laser loop, it plays on awake and it loops. And the laser start, it plays on awake and doesn't loop. It only plays that once, so it's the start sound. So each of those have that. The line renderer, a script I call laser eyes that defines the line renderer, a max length, and the layer mask. And they have an audio source, and they have a material, which is that red laser material I showed you. All right. So that's that. And then I put them in one empty game object, which I can toggle active and inactive in his code. All right. So if we go into the code, all right. So as you can see here, it's the old click to move I'm using on him. All right. And we've got layer masks that were already there from before, which are clickable layers, and that's both the ground and enemies. All right. So you want all layers that you can click on to be in here. And then we've got one for the ground only and for only enemies. All right. And like I said, those were here before. And we're utilizing the clickable layers, the ground and the enemy. All right. And then down here, what we've got that I added new for this effect is a private vector 3 called the last mouse position. And this is for creating the scorch effect. Okay. Because when you shoot off that laser to the ground, let's say you're not moving the mouse and you're just shooting the laser at the ground, it shouldn't be scorching then because you'd just be creating a shit ton that aren't needed. So I only create them when the mouse is moving, as you can see. Let's see if you can see that. Oh shit, I forgot to do that to him. Okay. And this should load him right in because he was the last character loaded. So, yeah. You can see while it's moving, it's scorching the ground. But if I stop, it won't. So if I just do this and hold it, nothing. And if there's one initial one, then it doesn't create any more. You can see it evaporate. But if you start moving around, you get the scorch. And they will eventually taper out and disappear and destroy themselves, because all that is a sprite that I'm kind of plastering onto the ground in the normal direction of the ground, just above it. All right. So that's what the last mouse position is for, this vector 3. It checks to see if the mouse has moved on the screen a certain amount of pixels, and I think I'm using 2 or 3 pixels. And if it gets the last mouse position and then checks every frame to see if it's moved while you're using this skill. And if it is not equal to the last mouse position and it's greater than like whatever we set it to, right? Like right here, the scorch mouse move threshold, that's 5, but in the inspector, I think I brought it down to 2 or 3. And if it's moved more than 2 or 3 pixels, then it creates the scorch prefab, which is a sprite. Then we have a public game object, the Scorch Effects Prefab, which is what we just talked about, the sprite. And then we have another public game object called Laser Flames Effects, FX. All right, and this, I believe, is this is the prefab that generates kind of the fire at the tip where the 2 lines meet. And I made that a prefab. And we actually got one right here, so I could turn that on. Right there. I'll play it. Okay, and that's that. That's what I put at the tip where the 2 lines meet, and it's basically always going to be at the mouse position, whether it's on an enemy or on the ground. And that's kind of, like I said, the tip where it scorches. All right. So that's what Laser Flames FX is. It's a combination of particle effects. So you put whatever particle effects you want, at the end of your laser, and then that's what that would be, because we're going to create that dynamically when we start the lasers and keep it and update its position to the tip of the lasers while the mouse is being held down, and then destroy it when you let up on the mouse and stop the lasers. Then we have a private game object called laser flames. And this is just kind of a name holder for when we instantiate it. I'll show you that right now. So what we're doing, all right, in the update function, we're checking to see if input get mouse button down. So it's not that it's being held down, it's just checking to see if the mouse button was pushed down. And laser eyes, and that's what we just talked about up here, the laser flames. And laser eyes dot active self. Okay. Then we set the laser eyes to true. All right, and that's the empty game object that's holding the two other empty game objects with the line renderer. Okay, that's laser eyes. We set that to true. Okay, and then we set the animator, a bool called lasers, to true, and we play the laser attack animation for that character. All right, and I guess I'll show you that too. And that's this right here. Okay, so it was kind of a yell or shout animation, but what I did was it's like that. He goes from idle to boom, and it's kind of perfect. It kind of looks just like he's shooting out a laser there. So that's what that is. And we play this animation in the code that I just showed you, and it's got a transition, okay, and a condition right here. The parameter is a bool, and it's called lasers, and it starts off as false. And if lasers, the bool I just showed you, is false, then it transitions back to idle. So since it's false to start with, and it's not being called in the beginning anyway, you'll play the idle. Well, it'll go to sword chill run and then go to idle because you're not doing anything, but you'll start with idle. So that's the animator. Okay, so yeah, we set that game object with the two line renderers to active. We set that laser's bool, and anim is just what we're calling the animator. Okay, so like in start, you can see that anim equals get component animator. Okay, so that's what anim is. So we set the animator's bool lasers to true. And then we say play laser attack. So we set that to true first, so it won't transition out of it, and then play it. And the animation doesn't loop, so he like throws his arm out and puts his face forward and shoots out the lasers, and the animation will stop at the end and stay there like he's still doing it, you know. And then we set a vector 3 called temp position, and we equal it to a new vector 3, and we set it to the Demon Knight's position X, his position Z, and his position Y plus 1,000. And then we say laser flames, and that's what's up here, right? So it's just a private game object so that we can utilize the name, basically. So we say laser flames equals instantiate laser flame effects, and that's the fire at the tip of both lasers, wherever they're hitting, the laser flame effects. And we set it at the temp position, which we just declared here, which is 1,000 units above the player. And that way you don't see it be initiated. And then quaternion identity. So we use laser flames to instantiate the laser flame effect that's at the tip. Okay, and that's if the mouse button is down and the laser eyes are not active already. And then else if input get mouse button up and laser eyes are active, we set the laser eyes active to false. And then if laser flames do not equal null, we destroy the laser flames. Okay, and that's what I talked about earlier. We create them as soon as you shoot the lasers out, keep them there and update their position while the mouse is being held down, and then we destroy them when the mouse button comes up. And then we set bool lasers, the bool I showed you in the animator, to false. That way it transitions back to idle. Okay, so after these two if statements, we use another one called if laser eyes active self. So if it's active, we want everything in here to happen. And if it's active, we set a vector 3 called target position equal to the hit point of this physics raycast. And we're using the clickable layers like I showed you. So the clickable layers are defined as the ground and the enemies. So that's what the target position is. It's the hit point. So we set another vector 3 called current mouse position, and this is for the scorch, and it's at the input mouse position. Then if vector 3 distance, current mouse position, last mouse position is greater than scorch mouse move threshold, and that's like I said, it's 2 or 3 pixels. If you move the mouse 2 or 3 pixels on the screen, then we spawn the scorch. So game object scorch, we create a game object and call it scorch and set it equal to instantiate scorch fx prefab. Okay, and we'll show you that real quick. Prefabs, scorch, and I have one right here actually. Again, because I didn't get rid of it. So you can see right there. If we move it up a little. Okay. So that's what that is. It's just kind of like a scorch effect, and it's a sprite. You can see it's got a sprite renderer, and it's a PNG with the alpha channel, so you only see the black scorch effect stuff. So that's what that is. So we say game object scorch equals instantiate scorch fx prefab, and that's what I just showed you, just a sprite that I made a prefab. And we spawn it at the hit point. So we're, like I said, we're using the raycast to find out where the mouse is, and spawning this at the hit point, and plus hit normal. So we want the normal of, say, the ground. Okay, times 0.01 f. So I mean, it's moving it just barely above the ground, so you can see it, and you don't get that glitching kind of effect that it's because it's right on the ground. So you move just above it, and then quaternion look rotation hit dot normal. So we set it at the normal of the ground. Then scorch dot transform dot rotate 0, 0, 0, make it face up. Scorch transform dot rotate 0, 0, and then a random dot range of 0 and 360, and that gives you randomness of, instead of it always being the same, it kind of rotates it around, you know, on the y-axis, or in this case the z because it's the sprite. But and then we get the last mouse position and equal it to the current mouse position, and that way we can check again in the next frame if it's moved from that position. That's how we do that. Then you get the laser flames dot transform dot position equals hit point. So we're updating the flame effects and sparks and stuff every frame to be at the hit point of wherever the mouse is. Then we got a vector 3 look position equals hit point. Okay, and then look position.y equals transform.position.y. So what we're doing is we're moving the demon knight, rotating him in whatever direction the mouse is. So he can shoot the lasers out from his eyes in that direction, but also his body turns in that direction to look at it. And that's what that is. And that's basically it for his code to do that. Okay. And then the laser eyes right here, this code is what's on that code is what's on each of these left and right empty game objects for where his eyes are. So you see the script laser eyes right here? That's this one. So in this script, we declare a public line renderer, and that's what you see right here. Okay, so that's why you have this line renderer spot here, and I just dragged the line renderer down in there from this game object. And then we have a public float for the laser max length, which is 100. Like I said, 100 units it can go out. You should never need more than that. But I mean, you could set it to whatever. I mean, infinite if you wanted, or 1,000 or whatever. Public layer mask, hit mask. Okay, and that's for checking the ground and the enemies. And again, if we go look at it, the hit mask equals ground and enemy layers. Okay, and then in their updates, again, we do the ray, screen point to ray, input mouse position, raycast.hit, then we got a vector 3 endpoint, and we got an if statement for the raycast out hit mask, and the endpoint equals the hit point. All right, so if raycast hits something between the ground or the enemies, it sets the endpoint to the hit point. Else, endpoint equals the ray origin plus ray direction times laser max length. All right, then we got a float width, and we set it equal to a random dot range, and this is for the line renderers, okay, so that they kind of, give that kind of power fluctuating laser thing. And we set the width to 0.005, between 0.005 or between 0.015. So I told you it's almost zero that I set it to, but we're setting it in code to be random anyway. And that's basically almost zero right there, but it fluctuates between 0.005 and 0.015. And then we got the line renderer start width equals width, and the end width equals width. So it stays straight but fluctuates a little like a laser power kind of fluxing, And then we say line renderer dot set position 0 to the transform dot position, and that would be right here. And then the line renderer dot set position 1 to the endpoint, which is wherever the mouse is hitting, whether it be an enemy or the ground. So it shoots that line from the line renderer from the eye to wherever the mouse is hitting. Okay? And that's the code on both laser eyes. You can see they both have the same script. It does the same thing. So even though they're starting left and right, they meet up at the end. So that's how you get that effect where it's, oh shit, I forgot there's going to be two of them again. Okay, so yeah, that's how you get this start. And as you can see from each eye, but they meet up at the end wherever the mouse is. You can see right at the mouse tip the laser flame effects with the sparks and stuff. You can see the scorch being created at the hit position, and it's using the normal of the ground, so it's flat on the ground, and it's only going to create that if you're moving it around. Names in it. Yay. Okay, so that's that. And actually, let's kill them all. Right? Boom, you're dead. Boom, you're dead. Boom, you're dead. All right, so so that's the script attached to the both eyes. All right. And then we've got one for the scorch mark. Okay, and this is pretty short right here, 26 lines. So we got the using Unity engine, the public class I called Scorch Mark. We have a private sprite renderer called SR for sprite renderer, obviously, and a public float called fade speed. Now again, this is set to 1 here, but in the inspector, okay, if we look at the prefab, I've got it down to 0.01, so it stays. Now, if we set it to 1, like it is in the code and play, you're going to see that scorch effect dissolve much more quickly. So that's a matter of preference. You can set that to whatever you like to have it either hang out for a little while or fade away quickly. Okay, but I like it to hang out for a little while, so we'll go back to 0.1. Okay, so that's the fade speed. And then in the start, we say sprite renderer is equal to get component sprite renderer. And it's private because it's on that object, so private sprite renderer. And then we get the component of it. And then we've got a float called scale, and we set it equal to random.range 0.1 and 0.4. So this way, they're not only different random rotations, but it's going to be a different scale as well, which gives you that bit of randomness and chaos theory in there. And then we set the transform local scale to the new vector 3 scale, which is right here. And then in their updates, they say color, and we name it C, is equal to sr.color, the sprite renderer is .color. And then C.A, color.A, minus equals fade speed, which is the fade speed we talked about, times time.delta time. And then sprite renderer.color equals C. Okay, so we set it. Then if C.A, which is if colors.alpha is less than or equal to 0, then we destroy the game object. And that script is on the Scorch prefab here. You can see right here. Okay. And then lastly, we have a laser damage script. Okay. And this is on laser flames. And I think I have one down here, right? I think I showed you this already. Uh, yeah, okay. So that is on here. This script is on here. Laser damage. And on this one, the layer mask is only checking for enemies. Because what this is is not just the particles, but it has a box collider component as well. And if I click edit there, you can see the box around it. It's good size, so you won't take a lot to hit them with it. And it's set to a trigger. And there's also a rigid body on it because for triggers to detect collisions, one of the colliding objects, whether it's this one with the box collider or the enemy, has to have a rigid body. And the enemy doesn't have a rigid body, so I threw one on this, and I set it to kinematic and took off gravity, so it's just basically a rigid body, but it doesn't act like a physics body, even though it is. So that's what this is. This script is on that kind of tip fire object that has the particle effects. Okay. So we call this class laser damage, and we use the layer mask enemy layer, and it's only got the two functions, no update, and it's on trigger enter and on trigger stay. Collider other. And on enter, what we do is check for the enemy layer, and if it finds something on the enemy layer, we create a flow called do damage. We set it equal to a random dot range of 5 and 15, and that's for the initial finding of them. Okay, and then we get the other dot game object component, which is the enemy AI script, and we tell it to take damage and set it equal to the new damage here, which is random. And then the other dot game object script AI, we set a function called on fire. And if we look at the enemy script here, it's got a public void called on fire and on fire.play. And I've showed you this in the archers tutorial because she has fire arrows and she sets them on fire this way. So I'm not going to go through all this again, because we already did it once. I'm just utilizing that to set them on fire with the lasers. All right. So that's the initial entrance of an enemy into that trigger collider. We give them a good amount of damage and then set them on fire. And then on trigger stay, so if you're holding it there, every frame it'll give new damage of 1 to 5. And we tell it to take damage again and the new damage. So if you're shooting the laser at the enemy, every frame it's also going to get 1 to 5 damage on top of the initial damage that was given of 5 to 15. Okay. And like I said, eventually you can be able to put points into these skills that these characters have to make them better. Like it'll start off once you initially pick the skill, you'll have it as a level 1 skill. But once you level up again, you can choose to up one of your skills to like level 2. So if you pick the laser eyes and you clicked it onto level 2, then it would do more damage. So I'll be adjusting this in the future for like giving it more damage if the skill is being leveled up. But for now, this works fine. And that's it. You got the laser damage script. You have the laser eyes script. And we'll just see there. So you can pause it if you want and do this. You got the scorch mark script right here. And then in the click to move, like I said, we're just using a few if statements to see if the mouse is down or up. And if it's down and the laser eyes are not active, it sets them active and does all that stuff. Else if it's up and it's active, we set it to deactive. And then this is if it's active, so while it's active. All right. So it doesn't check for any mouse or anything, it just checks to see if that's active. And that does all the sweet stuff right here. And yeah, I didn't hook this up to a skill number yet or anything, but we will. Um, but that's his first skill, and that's all the code needed for it. And in my opinion, it's pretty badass. So let's kill him again. Boom, boom. Okay, and we can open up the menu, save it where his progress is. And then once we play it again, it should load that up. Oh yeah, you know why? Because we didn't load it from the load button. So if we load it from the load button, it should have all his experience from killing those three. Because the save stuff already works. My hex, that's funny. And we load it from here, and yeah, there's your experience for killing them before. And let's kill them. Boom! See, now we just went up a level. We're level 2, and that's our experience for level 2. And if I save and exit that, and we go right back to the scene here, go to load game, pick this character, load it up. See, now we're level 2 still, and there's your experience for that. So, and like I said, he'll be able to imbue his blade, his melee blade, with fire, cold, or poison. Oops. Sorry, didn't mean to kill you there, buddy. And you can attack the melee style right now. And there's chances to miss, of course, like I showed you in an earlier one. And now, boom, laser eyes, you're dead. So, pretty cool effect, I think. And that's all there is to it. And like I said, once I get his actual demon script, character script going, I'll hook up the health going down and the mana going down when you use the skills and stuff. But, I mean, those work. They're just not hooked up on that script for him yet. So, that's it for that one. Hope you enjoyed the laser eyes and the new Diablo-like game tutorial. And, yeah. If you liked it, hit that like button and subscribe to the channel and hit the bell so you get notified when the next part drops or any tutorial I put out drops, because I plan on putting out another one for that unique first-person shooter weapon stuff. And, you know, plenty more all around, really. So, yeah, hit that subscribe button, man. What are you waiting for? And I want to say thank you to all the subscribers. You guys rock, and keep it up. So until next time, peace out.